The college football playoff. Did the CFP committee get it right? Oh my goodness, is Twitterverse just in an uproar right now? We all knew that the Fighting Hairballs were going to be number one after they dismantled Iowa 26 to nothing, which, by the way, had to be one of the worst Big Ten championship games in the history of the game. Outside of when we just absolutely destroyed Wisconsin, this was probably the next most boring game for people who weren't fans of the Maize and Blue. So we knew they would be number one. We knew Washington was in after they beat Oregon for a second time on Friday night. We watched Texas basically eliminate Ohio State's dreams when they dismantled Oklahoma State. And the fact that they had beaten Bama in a head-to-head earlier in the season in Alabama kind of gave you the feeling that when Alabama was going to take down Georgia, Texas was in. And so really the only question was it going to be Bama or was it going to be Florida State, who somehow won, I believe, 16-6 with their third string quarterback defeating Louisville, and they were an undefeated Power 5 conference champion. Who would the committee go with? Well, the ESECPN, I think that's how you pronounce that, money talks. Bama's in. FSU is out. JR, we might as well just turn it over to you first. Did the committee get it right?
Oh, well, it depends on what is right. And I was saying this on the Big Ten huddle and getting blasted for it because people said, oh, it's a mix. But if you wanted most deserving, it was Florida State. They went undefeated, they won their conference, all that good stuff. If you wanted best, you went with Alabama because Florida State is awful. Their quarterback stinks. I don't think Roadmaker, whatever his name is any better than Brock Lid, maybe slightly, but not all that much. So if you're saying you want the four best teams, which I think is what everybody wants, they got it right.
Aaron, did they get it right?
Unfortunately, I gotta agree with what JR is saying. Um, if you want it just depends. You know that's the hard part because the committee changes every year, and from what I understand, they don't have an actual affiliation with the NCAA. Other than I think that it's just a bunch of athletic directors, if I'm not mistaken, and maybe some other people mixed in there. But this is, we talked about this like last year, Eric. This is more of an invitational tournament than it is like an NCAA national championship. Exactly. If that makes sense to you guys. But yeah, if you want the four best teams, unfortunately, Florida State isn't one of those without their starting quarterback. So I think they did get it right in that respect.
Chris, your thoughts?
Okay, well, I'm going to tell it how it is, and that's the fact that they screwed it up. They absolutely screwed it up because they said, you know what? The regular season doesn't matter. They just came out and said the regular season means squat. Florida State goes out there, and guys, who are we to criticize any team that takes their third string quarterback into the playoff, right? I mean, come on. Alabama is a team that didn't belong there. And you guys said, did they get it right by putting Alabama in as the fourth best team in the country? No, because honestly, they aren't. Yes, they beat Georgia, but Georgia's a better team than Alabama. Alabama had no business in.
How is
Alabama
Georgia
had
better
no
than
business
Alabama?
in.
They just proved it on the field.
They beat them, yes. I'm not saying that that's wrong. But I don't believe they are the better team. This is an Alabama team that a week ago, or 2 weeks ago, nearly got taken down by a horrid Auburn team, if not for a bad defensive call by their defensive coordinator on the last play of the game. Alabama shouldn't even been in the consideration for this. If you want to talk about the best win-loss team in the country, it's Ohio State. Make no mistake about it.
Strength of schedule is there.
Strength of schedule. I mean, you talk about the ACC. They said, well, the ACC, wasn't as good as the SEC, I guess is what their argument is. But you know what? The ACC has a winning record versus the SEC this year
I
in
know.
heads-up conference and heads-up games.
Yeah.
It's BS. It was a power play by the brokers at ESECPN. Call it what it is. It was a money play, a power play. It's bullshit. Bull crap. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm a little fired up on this one. Aaron.
Family friendly, Chris.
I know. That's my first slip up. But you know what? Yeah, it's crap.
So I feel this comment from Rick Franz so much. Long as Bama takes down the team up
Yes.
north, I'm good. That's how I feel. That's how I. When it was Alabama, I laughed. I'm
I'm
like, oh
not.
my
Let's
gosh.
root for Washington, the team that'll be in the Big
Oh
Ten
yeah.
next year.
Oh, I'm all for that. Yeah, I agree with you on that, Chris. But let's be honest here. I want to see Michigan's continued losing streak in bowl games. I want to see that continue. You know, after all the trash that we have had to put up with this past week from them on our social media sites and here on the show, you should go read the comments from the videos this week. They are mostly from Michigan fans who are making fun of us or disagreeing with us or telling us how terrible we are. Like I just want to see them get kicked in the teeth. And if it's Alabama, as much as I hate Nick Saban, all right, I don't care at this point. Go for it. That's how I feel, man. And that I think that's the biggest difference between, say, the Big Ten and the SEC is you have the rest of the schools in the SEC who cling to the coattails of Alabama and Georgia and are like, look at us, how great we are, when they've done jack crap.
Well, that's
Where in
because
the Big Ten,
Alabama
we're like,
put the SEC on the map. That's the only reason the SEC is even consequential is because of Alabama. Yes,
This
Georgia the last 2 years, but the SEC in general over the last 2 decades, if not for Alabama, would be an also ran.
Jeff's comment. Yeah, I think that's wrong how far Alabama jumped, considering a lot of the commentators didn't even think Georgia belonged in the number one spot weeks before this playoff. That's a good point. Georgia was not number one until the very end, which made that Alabama game feel so much more important to see how they do that. That's why polls matter, guys. They really do. So yeah, that is what it is. Last thoughts on the CFP going into this. Who do you think is going to win it all? Real quick, we'll go around in a circle. Right now, I know things can change when injuries come out and whatnot, but if you had to put money down tomorrow and say, here's who my champion's going to be, JR, who you picking?
I'm picking Texas. I think Texas has a really good line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. Their secondary is a little suspect, but I think in today's college football, you can kind of get away with that here and there. I think their biggest challenge is going to be Washington, but if they play Bama again, I think they beat them. I think Bama got better, but I think Texas got better too. And if they play Michigan, I think they'll boat race them because just plain and simple, Texas is better.
Aaron.
I can't believe I'm about to say this. Roll Tide.
What?
Look,
That hurt, didn't it?
I thought for sure you were going to go Texas.
I would have liked to, okay? But here's my reasoning. It's hard to beat Nick Saban twice. It would be exponentially harder to beat him twice in the same year. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Chris.
Yeah, you know what? I'm actually going to go with Aaron. I'd love to say it's going to be Washington, but I just think the coaching, the experience of Nick Saban is too much. I mean, you've got. I don't think Ewers is all that. I think that he looked very good against a very bad Oklahoma State defense. But you know what? I really don't feel like he is all that when he comes up against a real defense.
So you picked who?
I'm going to take Alabama.
Alabama. Okay, so we got one Texas, two Alabama. I want to pick Washington.
So do I, but I can't. I don't think their defense is there.
No.
Defense worries me. I think I'm going to go with Texas. And I'll tell you why. I think Sarkisian can out-scheme Saban again. That guy right now he's got it rolling. And I don't know about you guys, but I was watching Quinn Ewers, and I was having what could have been moments, if you know what I mean, as a Buckeye fan. Frank says, and Frank, I'm glad you're here. Frank says coaching And quarterback defense is very solid too. He's going with Bama. Frank, stick around to the end of the show if you can. We're actually going to talk about your article after the commercial break that you wrote about grading the coaches. So, Frank, we'd love to see you stick around. We're actually going to talk about that tonight. So there's that. All right. Good discussion, guys. We'll see. We have 2 for Texas, 2 for Bama, and no one's picking a team up north. So, Mark Swick, he said roll tide with the throw up emojis.
That's how I felt
That's
deep down.
yeah.
The only thing I can think of worse to say is go.
Oh, don't!
Oh, don't
Don't
you
you-
dare!
That
Chris
that would be
could
the only
swear
thing.
you out.
And I would
Chris
deserve
will
it.
cuss you
One
out, man.
time in 5 years, I let it slip.